Hi, my name is Jesus Rodriguez. I'm the former Consul General of Venezuela in Chicago, and I'm currently the editor of a website called OrinocoTribune.com. That's a website with information about Venezuela, political information about Venezuela. I want to say thank you for inviting me. I want to say hello to my friends in Detroit from the Communist Workers League that I visited several times while I was in Chicago. And I'm going to the points. I'm going to try to brief you with recent events on Venezuela. I have like four parts in my words. The first one is going to talk about indisputable facts. The second one about lies, fake news, and trends of media warfare in Venezuela. Then I want to talk about the next scenarios, and then I want to talk a little bit about what can be done from the U.S. Uh, Going to the first part of my words, which refers to indisputable facts. The first thing that I have to say is that Maduro is still the president of Venezuela, as you should know already. Then I want to say that the army is united in defense of Maduro, but also in defense of the constitution and the Bolivarian anti-imperialism principles. So I believe that that's very important to reflect. I mean, it's important for me to let you know that that's a fact, that's not a lie. Um, it's also important for me to say that Chavismo has re-emerged and shows a very high spirit right now. Disregarding whatever you hear in the media or the social networks, I mean, Chavismo spirit is very high right now, especially because of the aggression, the U.S. aggression, and the imminent threats of being, invaded or something like that. So the Chavismo spirit is in the highest point that at least I've seen it since I came back from the U.S. like almost 2 years ago. So it's important for you to know that. It's important also for you to know that the so-called humanitarian aid did not enter Venezuela. But that I always think about the possibility that maybe because these guys from the right wing love to do things only for mass media consumption. Maybe they can smuggle those boxes in the future through like contraband or something like that. So that's a possibility, especially because they specialize in creating these like media trends, trying to portray something that is not real. But that's a possibility that I always have thinking of. But the concrete fact, referring to their announcement of forcing the entry of humanitarian aid in Venezuela on February the 23rd, was defeated. And that's important for us. That's an important victory uh, uh, from us, the Chavistas, but it's not like the complete defeat of the aggression. So we need to stay alert. Another important thing that you need to know is that the economy seems to be stabilizing. It's complicated to talk about these things in Venezuela because lately the economy has been behaving very erratically, but I believe that this time I have the impression, or maybe it's the hope, I don't know, that this time the economy is going to do better. Actually, for the last month, the price of the dollar have stabilized, and the prices of food and services in Venezuela has tend to stabilize, and that's important, and that's the result of several measures, especially related to monetary policies, economic policies, connected to the central bank and the amount of money that circulates in the economy. So That's like a very easy way to say it. But basically, the government, what it has been trying to do is to restrain the the amount of money uh, called by economists M1 in the economy, and that way they are trying to reduce the pressure on the exchange rate, on the black market exchange rate. And for the first time since I came back to Venezuela, I have the impression that it's happening. And the good thing about this is that the President Maduro is not announcing too many things, and those things have been happening in the background. And I believe that that's important because President Maduro already, for years has been, announcing big decisions around the economy here and there, and most of the time those decisions do not have any kind of effect. I'm not saying that that's his fault. I'm just saying that the strategy of taking decisions and letting the decisions to show if they work or not, I believe that is a good one. And at least until today, they seems to be having an effect in the economy, and I hope that it keeps going that way. Another important fact is that the coalition, the so-called coalition of countries that supports Guaido and especially the U.S. Department of State, seems to be wearing out. The Lima Group have had a lot of contradictions in its last meeting in Bogota a few days ago, especially in connection to the use or not use of a military intervention in Venezuela. That might be a strategy, of course, and a lot of people think in Venezuela that might be a strategy to try to play the good cop and the bad cop. But anyway, at least that shows that there are differences, even among the Lima Group countries, which everyone knows that are like right-wing governments. Pence inability to handle the situation during that meeting in Bogota, and blaming Guaido for his inefficiency in not providing, in not bringing the military coup that they promised, is another element that plays into that direction. The comments from the Spanish foreign minister talking about the ways that they're going to try to implement to recognize Guaido's ambassadors, or now they call it like a personal representative or something like that, because in foreign affairs and international relations what they have been trying to do, naming ambassadors here and there without having a state and a government and a nation behind them, is like crazy. So I mean, that among other things make me believe that unity that has been trying to present around the idea of Guaido being the legitimate president of Venezuela is going to start to wearing out. I mean, it's actually wearing out. It's going sooner or later to make explode the whole circus that the Department of State has been creating around Guaido. So that's basically the elements that I wanted to highlight about the facts. Things that are not disputable. I mean, those are facts. Now I'm going to talk about lies, fake news, and trends. No, and one of the first one that came to my mind was the one that says that Chavismo is running out of people, which is a lie. And as I already told you, Chavismo actually right now is very active, very in defense of the revolution, even though we have a lot of economic problems, even though the economic situation is very daring, but we have been trying to unite against the idea of being invaded, or against the idea, unite against foreign intervention, against imperialism. So that's a big lie that they have been trying to promote. Also, especially the Department of State tried to promote the idea that the presidential elections of May 20th last year, when President Maduro was elected president, were not free and unfair presidential election. And that's a big lie. I mean, everyone knows that that the the Venezuelan electoral system is one of the best in the world, and I really believe in that. Uh, Everyone knows that the Venezuelan government called for early elections because of the agreements they reached in the negotiation table in Dominican Republic. And then, when the decision was about to be taken and all the agreements were about to be signed, the right-wing opposition decided not to not to sign the agreements from Dominican Republic. And one of the agreements was that the elections were needed to be called early. And Maduro, disregarding that the opposition did not sign that agreement, he decided to go ahead and push for the early presidential elections, and almost 10 million Venezuelans went to vote that day. Out of like 18 million Venezuelans that should be voted. I'm just doing that. I mean, the numbers might not be exactly, but I believe that they are very close to reality. So basically, not recognizing that election like a free and legitimate one is crazy, because what happened is that the opposition parties didn't want to run in that election because they received instructions from the U.S., and from the U.S. they told them that they shouldn't go and run for presidential, go into the presidential race, because that was not in the plan. The plan since the beginning was a confrontational plan. And also some people say that they knew that they were going to lose that elections against Maduro, and that's why also they decided not to run. But anyway, I mean, the Department of State is trying to push towards that direction, which is crazy. They also try to promote the idea that the military hierarchy is scared to death because of the sanctions, and that's not true. I believe that there should be some because you have like rodent tomatoes everywhere. I mean, there should be rodent officials in the. I'm sure that they are in the military in Venezuela, that they might be dependent of the U.S. or have some sort of relationship with the U.S. or dependency with the U.S. But I don't think that represents the majority of the military. So the idea that they are trying to sell about the military being scared of the sanctions, I believe that is not like something that is gonna make a change in Venezuela, in their plans especially. Another thing that they promote a lot in the media is that people are dying in the street of Venezuela because of the humanitarian crisis. That's not true. I'm not saying with this that things are perfect in Venezuela, but one thing is recognizing that we have an economic crisis, mostly created by the U.S. financial blockade that started in 2015 when Obama signed the executive order that says that Venezuela was an unusual and extraordinary threat for the U.S. Since that moment in 2015, I believe, or 16, when Obama did that, everything started to get worse for Venezuela, especially in financial terms. And for the last 2 years, we have been suffering direct sanctions towards PDVSA. So we have an economic situation. mostly created by the sanctions and also maybe by mistakes from the government, like any government commits mistakes. But that's different from having a humanitarian crisis. So I believe that it's important to highlight that, because right now I have the impression, actually right now, today, I notice a lot in social media that they are trying to push that idea again a lot. Especially because one Venezuelan right-wing journalist posted a photo of some policemen beating a girl or a little boy in the streets, and this right-wing journalist said that we need to stop this or something like that was the statement, the tweet I mean. And then our people find out that the photo was from like a police, like a riot or something in Bangladesh in 2012. So they're gonna try to push the idea of a humanitarian crisis, but also the idea of Maduro being a repressive dictator, authoritarian, and corrupt, and things like that. And I believe that's very delicate, because a lot of our friends from the left, especially in the U.S., I have the impression that they read the debate. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but they fall into the trap. Especially because there's a lot of left-wing friends of us that are sometimes like, I don't know how to say it, right? What I'm trying to say is that you find a lot of people riding around saying that I love the Chavismo, I love the Bolivarian Revolution, but Maduro have to resign and allow new people to come out. I mean, maybe in a situation different like than the one that we are living right now, that might be debatable. That's something that might, but being in the middle of a U.S. aggression at the level that we are experiencing right now, and talking that way, whenever I see that, I apologize, maybe I'm wrong, but I have the impression that these are guys paid by the CIA trying to break the unity of, not only of Chavismo, the unity of Chavismo is going to be hard, and because they have been trying to do that for the last, 5 or 6 years without success. I mean, they have been divided. I mean, there are some groupings that has been divided from Chavismo, but that represents a tiny fraction of what Chavismo is. So in Venezuela, they don't have too much success doing that, but maybe abroad, that they don't live the day-to-day life of Venezuela, some people might fall into the trap. So I just wanted to highlight that, because I believe that is important, because that trend that says that Maduro is a dictator is something that has been pushing a lot. And it's not true. I mean, it's a big lie. I mean, Maduro, I'm not saying that Maduro's government is perfect, but what I'm trying to say is that there is not a systematic government approach toward the use of violence. In the contrary, this government is 100 years beyond the U.S. government in terms of approaching and addressing all the situations in which there has been abuse of power or by law enforcement. I mean, whenever I talk about this, I remember the Black Lives Matter movement in the U.S. I mean, the rule in the U.S. is that a police shoots someone, especially black people or Latinos, but anyone, and they get released. in Venezuela happens the contrary. I mean, the first decision that is taken with something like that happen in Venezuela is that the government put the police in jail. So I believe that is always very important to highlight that because they has been pressing into that direction too. Another element is that the Chavistas, and now I'm talking about the most recent events. Chavistas born these trucks in the Colombian border from the Colombian side with supposed humanitarian aid, and the true and all the videos and photos and graphics shows that the truck was in the Colombian border, that the humanitarian volunteers throwing Molotov cocktails by mistake or on purpose, throw Molotov bombs on the trucks. That's in videos. Those are facts also. But a lot of people, the problem with this is that when I was there is in Orinoco Tribune, I posted a piece, an opinion piece called "What is the Truth For?" or something like that. It's from a Venezuelan news portal called named Misión Verdad. It's excellent to explain what you feel when you are working as a journalist and you are trying to, present the truth with facts, and then you see what the mainstream media present. That happened to me also during last weekend when we have this border crisis with Colombia and the humanitarian aid, because even though we tried a lot to present the facts perfectly, the media, and the media companies do not pay attention to that. They just took whatever they wanted and they follow the script that has been written to them by the Department of State or their bosses, I don't know. And then when you see that all the facts point toward one side, but the big corporations like Reuters, BBC, CNN presents, for example, this incident in the Ridge like something that was caused by the National Guard of Venezuela, is like disencouraging, at least, to say a nice word. The same thing happened with the two armored vehicles that were that crashed into a barricade in the border, and basically they tried to kill someone, and thanks God they did not do that. But immediately, the mainstream media presented like it was like National Guard from Venezuela crashing on innocent people and trying to kill people. And the truth is that those guys that were driving those vehicles were defectors, National Guard defectors, 3 National Guard defectors that run immediately to the Colombian side. And they have like a welcome committee there already waiting for them, and that was caught on camera, and it's something that I'm not just inventing. You can see it in video. But anyway, it's part of the strategy to try to present us like the bad guys. Another lie, I already referred to that before, but it's important to highlight it, is that the coalition supporting the US is getting stronger. I'm repeating that because I just heard a few hours ago Elliot Abrams talking about that in a briefing from the State Department. The first things that he said when he started talking was that the coalition, the group of countries supporting Guaido and the U.S. strategy is getting stronger. That's not true. When you analyze all the facts, you see that that's a big lie. So that's it. Then now I'm going to talk about the next attacks. What I believe is going to happen next. Guaido going to jail or not going to jail? That's one big thing that might happen. I believe that the Venezuelan government has been trying to play the same strategy that Chavez used a lot, trying to let these things to wear out by themselves. But anyway, I believe that there's like a limit for that, and actually that guy leaving the country, I'm talking about Guaido, leaving the country to go to Colombia to command the operation of last weekend, and then coming back is gonna be like very bad for the spirit of the Chavistas in Venezuela and around the world. So I believe that the government should evaluate that. I'm not saying that the government should do this or that, because I know that that's a tough decision. But anyway, that can bring friction or more pressure towards Venezuela. Another situation that is important is what about threats against Guaido's life. That's another possibility. I mean, CIA has been done worse than that, and nothing comes to the CIA to use a sniper or whatever and kill that stupid guy that we don't have a problem to have in Venezuela. Actually, he stayed in Venezuela for a month without anything happening to him. So it's important to highlight that, because if something happened to Guaido, and if that happened outside Venezuela, it's gonna be like hard to explain that was Venezuelan fault. And Venezuelans do not have a tradition of promoting violence outside Venezuela or neither inside. So anyway, but that's a possibility, and a lot of people are talking about that. They're gonna keep. I mean, the U.S. is going to keep threatening for the military hierarchy, and actually today they did that a lot. They suppressed the visas for like 6 high-ranked commanders in the military, and they announced that they were going to suppress the visas to 40-something Venezuelans connected directly or indirectly with the government, even relatives of which I believe that is like mafia kind of stuff. Because one thing is dealing with with me, for example, as former consul general, and another thing should be like dealing with my daughter that doesn't have necessarily anything to do with me and the way I think. But anyway, that's a fact, and they are gonna keep pressuring, if you ask me, with any possible effect besides like 10 or maybe 50 or 100 more officers defecting, and if you compare that with the humongous number of military that we have in Venezuela, that's nothing. Another problem is the possibility of what Samuel Moncada announced yesterday, of the Venezuelan Liberation Army in Colombia, an armed group in Colombia, armed by the U.S. with Ukrainian weapons, conformed by defectors, military defectors that might create some sort of disturbances in the border. I believe that strategy is not going to play very well for the U.S. and less for Colombia, because in Colombia we have friends. I mean, we have the ELN, we have the FARC, and I believe that if they dare to do that, that's going to create a lot of tension inside Colombia military tension inside Colombia against that possibility. But that's a possibility. They might try also to promote riots in Venezuela because problems with public services, or fauci tactics like the ones that they tried to use immediately when Guaido self-proclaimed himself president in January 23rd. I mean, during that day and the day after that, they tried to promote like fauci, like small riots in different places in Caracas, especially in the poorest neighborhoods, to try to present like their stage of alternate reality in which the Chavismo was against Maduro, which is a big lie. But they can try to go into that direction, especially in connection to the problems with public services. I mean, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, public services in Venezuela has been going crazy. I mean, the water, the internet, the telephone service, electricity, and they can get into people's nerve doing that, and that might create some sort of riots here and there. But if you ask me, I believe that that's not going to affect the Chavista spirit. Another option, another possible scenario is that the U.S. might decide to use direct surgical and military actions against Venezuela. Salvador style. No, I'm not talking about Salvador. I'm talking about Honduras style with Zelaya. Sorry, or Noriega style, whatever. I mean, it's not gonna be easy first if they try to do that, because our country is a bit bigger than Central American countries, but and we are very well armed, but also because of the Constituent Assembly. I mean, if they try to kill the president, if they try to kidnap him, I mean, the most important political authority in Venezuela right now is the National Constituent Assembly that was elected last year. And, in 2017. That Constituent Assembly is formed with 100% Chavistas, hardcore Chavistas, by the way. So whatever happens if they do that, I mean, the Constituent Assembly is going to take the lead of Venezuela, and that's going to make very complicated to the U.S. to achieve their goals, or to the opposition to achieve their goals. So I believe that is not a viable possibility neither, but they can try to do it, because I sometimes believe that they are misled by someone, because you cannot be that stupid to do what the U.S. Department has been doing around Venezuela. But anyway, that's a possibility. And now I'm going to talk about what can be done from the U.S. in relation to Venezuela. First of all, to promote solidarity in all levels. I believe that is very important. I know that is very important for us here in Venezuela, to have your supports in the way of letters, phone calls, emails, forums, demonstration, march, whatever forms of solidarity that you can find, and that's important. And another important thing, I already talk about this a little bit, but another important thing that I believe that is need to be done is to differentiate the liberals or light socialists trying to get you confused, as I already said. I'm talking about those that says that they love the Bolivarian Revolution and that they love Chavez, but they hate Maduro because he's dictator, corrupt, and authoritarian, whatever. That trend that I've seen in several opinion pieces from the U.S. In recent days make me worry about the possibility of someone being caught in the middle of this strategy, or of trying to confuse the real progressive people in the U.S. about what happened in Venezuela. And the truth is that if you are socialist, if you are anti-imperialist, you have to oppose whatever the U.S. is trying to do in Venezuela. A regime change operation, yes, because they hate Chavismo just because they are afraid of the possibility of Chavismo spreading all over, just because we are a lot of oil in Venezuela. For whatever reason it is, the fact is that you cannot invade a country just because of that. And if you are anti-imperialist, you should oppose to that, and you cannot, especially in front of a very clear military threat that we have been living in Venezuela in recent weeks. You cannot have like double thought. I remember when I'm talking about that, a good article also that we posted in Orinoco Tribune from Iturriza, the former Minister of Culture of Venezuela from 2 years ago, I believe. And he was very clear about that right now and he said that it's not good to talk in those terms, but it's a fact. I mean, in situations like this, you have to choose between black or white. You cannot be in the middle, because in situations like this, life or death situations, you have to take sides. And when you are not put in situations like this, you might be happy, trying to be in the middle and hating and loving at the same time, and trying to find excuses for this and that. But Venezuelan current events shows that you cannot take that position. So I just want to alert you about that trend that I've been founded in opinion pieces from the U.S., especially here and there. So that's it. Sorry for being so long. I want to thank you again for inviting us. I believe that I know I forget something. I want you to, it's also important to work actively in social networks. That's something else that I wanted to say. I mean, no, it's not only going to Facebook or to Twitter or to Instagram and watching and things like that. I mean, you have to engage. That's the word that they use for these kind of things. You have to like the things that you like. You have to share the things that you like about Venezuela. You have to retweet. You have to comment. You have to like videos on YouTube. That kind of stuff. And if you do that, you know what I'm talking about. But if you do that in the case of Venezuela, it's very important that you know that for us, and to try to counter all that media warfare that is happening in social media, mostly in social media, we need to have our friends being more active. So that's something else that I want to say, and for that you need to visit orinocotribune.com. And that's it, my friends. I hope that you enjoy my words, and I want to thank you for inviting me, and I send you all my love from Caracas, and I want to let you know that we will prevail. Venceremos. Bye bye.